Recording in progress.
Hi, and welcome to the June 5th meeting of the Historic District Commission. I will introduce our commission members here. To my far right is Larry Booz, our alternate.
Hi. Good evening.
Dr. Dan Brown.
Good evening.
Martin Ryan.
Good evening.
It's our vice chair, Margot Doring.
Good evening.
I'm Reagan Rudig, the chair. We've got Isaac Gilbo from the Planning Department.
Good evening.
John Wyckoff.
Good evening.
Rich Blaylock, our city council representative.
Good evening.
And David Adams.
Good evening.
All right, so the board's action in these matters, I should read it every meeting, has been deemed to be quasi-judicial in nature. If any person believes any member of the board has a conflict of interest, that issue should be raised at this point or it will be deemed waived. All right. Before we get to the approval of minutes and things, I just want to go through all of our requests to postpone because we have a lot of them. So if anybody here is waiting for a particular one, we've got, first one is public hearing old business A, petition of Maximilian Kolbe Hochschwender, owner for property located at 44 Rogers Street. Also, work session public hearing requested by 95 Daniel Street for property located at 985 Daniel Street. C, the petition of Emily Niehaus and Bernard T. Rosler, owners for property located at 44 Gardner Street. Public hearing new business number 5, the petition of Daniel McGreevy, owner for property located at 425 Islington Street. Number 6, the petition of Argeris and Eloise Carabellis, owners for property located at 461 Court Street. And all of these, I believe, will be postponed to next month, except for 425 Islington Street, which will be next week.
That's correct.
So can I get a motion to postpone all of these?
So moved.
And seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so if anybody wanted to speak to any of those that you heard, we're not talking about it tonight. All right, so first we have the approval of the May 1st and May 8th meeting minutes. Let me know if there are any corrections or clarifications that need to be addressed.
Yeah, there's just the one issue on that 53 Green Street where the sentence just doesn't make any sense, and if I could go back and just
Isaac has
see what
that.
that was about.
Yes, I'll work with the minute taker to see if we can rewatch the meeting and get a
What happened?
more clearer sentence there.
Anybody else have any issues? All right, can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, our administrative approvals, we have 5. I'll let Isaac go through these.
All right, good evening. So we'll start at the top with administrative approval item number 1, 238 Deer Street. This project has been before the commission for a certificate of approval and subsequent administrative approvals. 1 second while I get my screen shared. So the applicant here is proposing a number of small changes to the project. I'll just quickly run down the list. They have a change in the brick selection as the approved brick is no longer available. The addition of the granite landing on the right side of the Deer Street elevation entry door. The brick window sills will become blue stone as the provider does not, or the producer does not provide solid bricks for the sills. The addition of windows on the public walkway elevation, increased height of 2 front entry doors, and this is due to the lowering of the slab elevation, and that's due to accessibility. The public walkway elevation, or excuse me, the relocation of the previously approved mechanical louver from the public walkway elevation to the rear elevation. The previously approved roof hatch has been removed. The previously approved exterior roof access ladder that was previously removed is being proposed again in a new location. And there's the addition of the rear exit landing, ramp, and handrail and guardrail, and that's again for accessibility. And so I'll just quickly run through photos to show those several items. And while I'm doing that, does the commission have any specific questions on each of those changes? I do believe we have the applicant here if more information is needed.
I have a question of the substitution of bluestone for the brick sill. I'm wondering what that means.
Sure.
Representatives from McHenry can come up. Thank you.
Richard Desjardins from McHenry Architecture. I have a sample of the bluestone here. Would you want to see it, or?
If you've got it, thank you for lugging it all this way,
Let's see it.
certainly.
Let's see it.
Thank you very much.
Is it textured?
No, it's sawn, looks like a natural cleft on one side.
The side that has a little bit of the texture is the finish that we're gonna move forward with a rock face finish on the face of the sill.
So the proposed sill is going to be one piece of that virtually 2-inch thick material set at an angle as one might have set the brick,
Yes.
and you're going to have we'll call it a flame finish on the top and a textured stone finish on the edges that are
Yes.
exposed.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thanks.
Any further questions from the commission? Okay. I will move on to administrative approval item number 2, which is 434 Marcy Street. This application is for the installation of HVAC equipment. It's 2 heat pumps and an AC condenser. And this is at the rear of the structure. And there is a fence on both the side and the rear of the home, so the condensers will not be visible from a public way. And any further? Oh,
Oh.
sorry. Yes, and of course.
Sorry, I just have one minor change.
Sure.
Just in the order of how they're.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'll hand a couple of these out. Basically, they wanted to have the AC.
Hold on, you're going to have to wait to speak into the microphone.
Yeah,
Yes. that's it.
you know that.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Ann Whitney, architect for the project. Yeah, so if you look at the rear elevation, we're just switching the AC condenser closer to the entry addition because that sticks up a little further out. And then the other 2 will shift and the spacing will stay the same. So that was my only added
Okay.
bit. And there is fencing on all sides, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to administrative approval, item number 3, which is 99 Daniel Street. So this project, again, has received a certificate of approval from the HDC, and they've come back for administrative approval for some minor changes. What they are hoping to do is reduce the rear deck depth from 9 feet to 6 feet. This would allow for more space for parking in the rear of the building. The stair leading to the second floor would be removed. The first floor deck would be recessed to provide room for a condenser unit. On the raised sill height on the first floor window on the west elevation. A window added on the first floor adjacent to the rear entry door. And that would match the second floor window removed from the north elevation, and then the addition of gutters and downspouts.
Isaac, is there any screening of the AC condenser unit that they're putting? I know it's not seen by the public way, but it would be in that neighborhood of everybody's backyard in that
Right.
alley, right?
I'm not seeing a proposed
It
Well,
does say
it looks like we do maybe
screening.
have maybe it looks like a wood slat screening.
Okay.
I think I just got a nod from the applicant that that is what their intention is for
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Do we have any further questions for the proposed alterations for this particular project? Okay.
Just
go
just
ahead.
one. With the removal of that second floor staircase on the back deck,
Mm-hmm.
does that affect any egress requirements or anything for occupancy or?
I'm not sure of that particular answer myself. I think perhaps the applicant can maybe speak to that if they've had a chance to speak with our inspections department.
Yes, good evening, Mark Giannini from McHenry Architecture. When we were here in front of you for approval previously, the applicant's intention was to basically have 2 units. There's going to be 1 on each floor. Since then, and since construction's begun, they've decided to make it a single unit that's going to be a live-work. So we're not looking for that additional stair means of egress from the second floor deck. The windows, we've got egress windows from bedrooms and stuff to meet code. So that was the reasoning behind removing that stair.
Yeah, so not a factor. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
It does say unit condenser with screening.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions for 99 Daniel Street? Okay. So we'll move on to administrative approval item number 4, which is 70 Maplewood Avenue. Again, here we've got several changes to a previously approved design. I'll try to quickly run through those. So the accent brick material has changed. The applicant wasn't able to get the exact approved color combo from the manufacturer. The electrical room windows and door, the openings for the corner elevation are revised to accommodate the building power entrance on the corner of the site, with lines running internally. Number 3, changes to the penthouse window and doors. The interior unit design development will require door and window adjustments to accommodate a new floor layout. Item 4 is the garage passage door removal. So the second door from the garage is no longer needed, so they're proposing to remove that. The exterior bracket spacing, the spacing itself the brackets, have been doubled and positioned on the bricks piers and not within the brick recessed areas. Item number 6 is rooftop solar panels that are proposed on the penthouse roof. These are not visible as depicted in the renderings, and they'll be mounted at a 10-degree angle. Item 7 is penthouse mechanicals. So mechanical equipment is proposed on the penthouse level, and this is all behind the parapet wall with the screening fence similar to the solar. Item number 8 is the garage louvers. The garage louvers, as noted, are exempt if they do match the brick and do not extend from the building more than 6 inches, but they've included that here as just one of several items. All right. And so here's the approved accent brick versus the proposed. We've got the penthouse window changes from the approved and the proposed. And here we have the bracket changes. Here we have the shows the rooftop solar and a few of the garage passage door, the removal of the garage passage doors, excuse me. And we've got more elevations there. Does anyone have further questions on this particular?
Is the mechanical screening that we're seeing, the slick fence, that's the mechanical screening that they're using, not the fence they're using on the ground?
Yes, we got a yes from
Okay.
The architect
Yes.
in the audience.
That'd be great.
Okay. Great.
And any further questions? Okay. That will bring us to our final administrative approval, which is 346 Pleasant Street. The applicant is seeking approval for the removal and replacement of their existing wood fence on the property. They're not proposing to change the location. It would be in the exact location that the fence is in now. The one change would be the material. So it's currently wood, as I mentioned. They're proposing a vinyl material in a very similar style. So I will go ahead. So here, it just shows an outline of where the fence will be replaced in black. There's two main sections. Just an overview of the same thing, showing where that fence currently exists. And here is just an example of what they're proposing, which is a very similar fence to what is there now. And again, the main difference is that they are proposing vinyl. Yes, Dan?
Is it possible to see a sample of this fencing? Vinyl fencing has really come a long way, but some of it is really tacky and some of it looks very good.
I did reach out to the applicant to see if we were able to get a sample of that. Just 1 second, I believe we have that.
Great.
Oh, yes.
That looks like a fence.
We have a whole
The fence girl.
It's not to scale. My wonderful at 6 o'clock last night had a
You-
big shop.
If you don't mind just introducing yourself at the microphone.
And Madison Abbott representing Wentworth Senior Living.
Okay, great. Just bring it down.
Probably not going to pass it around.
It's just a vinyl
Make
fence.
good use of the baby gate at home afterwards.
People came in and complained about neighbors.
Will this be the size too?
Yeah.
Will this be the size?
A little bit bigger.
Maybe there are.
No, I meant
Means
for
the dimensions of the
example for
posts.
Nominal
post.
is 6 inch, that's 5 inch, so it
And
will be
this
just a hair
thickness?
bigger. Yeah. Thickness is the same, picket's the same, it will be scalloped as opposed to the flat right there. And the caps will be New England style caps as opposed to those.
Any questions or concerns about use of
He's not going to hold it.
the switch to vinyl? I think it's a reasonable location for something more durable than.
Every time the wind blows.
Yeah.
Normally, I would not be supportive of this at all because the vinyl just does not, it does not look good. However, this is way in the back. If the neighbors are not objecting, and this is a lot of fencing for this institution to maintain, but I do it reluctantly. Approve it.
Yeah.
Yes, John.
I'm going to agree with Margot. If this were in another location, on the street, in the south, other places in the south end, or, I would certainly be against it. I'm just wondering if the applicant could explain, can that fence be tightened up a little bit? I mean, it's,
So I did ask that when my rep came by today to drop that off. It will absolutely be tight. The slats will fit perfectly. Those were just bored in with a leftover piece that he made last night for a sample, because I was not prepared to bring a
Oh,
sample section.
okay. Well,
So
thank
when
you.
the wind blows, it will not shake.
yeah, that's what I was wondering. Thank you very much.
Of course.
So, because there's, not people at the gates here,
Right. Okay.
let it go.
I would note from personal experience, having unfortunately allowed a little bit of this on my house, it is not as maintenance-free as people think. It collects algae and moss, and you have to wash it a lot. So, good luck.
Yeah.
Mr. Wyckoff, your comment about it's not on the street, but it is. It runs
Yes, it is.
150 feet along the side of the street.
Right, it's in the back, right up against the South Mill Pond also.
And up against the South Mill Pond, and actually it reaches over to Melchner.
Next street.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just the little octagonal or round-shaped piece. It's really,
It tears you.
I wish the applicant no harm.
Yeah.
I agree, it's not the most prominent piece of fencing in the community. I got it. But it just seems like it doesn't need my approval.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. There's a, boy, I hesitate to get too far with this, but there's a little bit of a delicacy to the wooden fencing that is missing with this. I'm not arguing that it can be made so that it doesn't rattle, but it's, it doesn't even look like the fencing that's there has ever been repainted.
Well,
Anyway, don't need my approval. Thank you.
understood. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any other comments on it? I will, since we don't have any other stipulations, I don't believe, for any of these, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, anyone?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Chair votes aye. So, good. All right, thank you. All right. Now we are to our public hearings. For the evening, these are all new business public hearings. First, we have petition of Coventry LLC for property located at 111 State Street, wherein permission is requested to allow changes to a previously approved design, reconfigure rear gable ends to include a recessed porch and dormer, add new windows, change rear center gable siding, and changes to the front entrance doors to as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 107 as Lot 20 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. Hello.
Good evening. Tracy Kozak, Arcove Architects, here on behalf of the applicant. This project, as you know, has been approved already. This is a revision to a previously approved application. We felt it was significant enough to merit a full review, so we are here. Essentially, it is a revision to the back gable dormer, a door on the front, and the storefront windows on State Street, and a roof hatch. So the biggest change is on the back, so you can see it's under construction now. The two yellow gables are part of the property. They were built in the 1980s, and we'd like to change. So on the left, you see the new construction in like a brownish red, and that is a shed dormer to the left of the yellow gables. We would like to mirror image that on the right and change the right-hand yellow gable to a shed dormer. The center yellow gable, we would like to lift it up by about 3 feet and have a recessed porch in the gable. There are a few windows that are added. If you go to the next page, you can see the elevations. And again, this is no change to the historic elements of the building. This property is comprised of four different structures built at different times. Just to remind some who may not have been here at the beginning, the whole reason this project started initially was to provide a fire-safe exit in the back in between the two L's and a fire stair. It has evolved a little bit from what was mostly a restaurant program to now less of a restaurant program and more housing upstairs, and the reason for this is to expand some of the living area on the upper floor to create more housing. The housing is intended to be used for employees of the owner's restaurant properties in town. So that is why we would like to do the shed dormer to the right on the back. That's a roof plan. Before you leave that, I just want to point out so there's a flat roof section between the State Street and the Sheaf Street gables. That was there previously, but it had previously been approved flat roof about 2/3 of the way to the left to where that yellow gable ended. We'd like to bring that all the way to the edge of the building, just a flat roof. You won't see it from anywhere. It's currently a roof well with a giant piece of restaurant HVAC up there. We're changing the HVAC system so that a huge piece isn't needed anymore. There are smaller pieces up there. We just like to make it flat so we have a little more ceiling height for the apartment up there. You can also see the roof hatch, which we have tucked to the upper left corner of the elevator overrun. We don't believe you can really see this from street view, and we have some angled perspective views in the next pages. You can see a little bit of the guardrail poking up above the elevator overrun, but it's not a big solid thing. All right, and this is the State Street side. The two changes here, the Nana windows, so there's one existing Nana window storefront, which is to the right of the middle door of the brick building. That's been there for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. We were previously approved to replicate those on the other 3 locations with folding windows. We would like to change those to sliding windows instead of folding windows. They're Colby instead of Nana, and it's really due to cost. Also, we found with the folding windows, they obstructed the sidewalk a little bit, or the interior dining room with sliders, they're flush to the building. They don't stick out. The door is currently a double door, that exact same style. It's just there's 2 of them. We would like to have only one door. It could be the same door with 2 side lights on either side, which is more typical front door in the south end to have a single door instead of a double door. That's it for State Street. That's the existing. This is Sheaf Street. The center gable, the center yellow gable, we would like to reclad in shingles to differentiate it and to help break up the mass. It would remain clapboards. It's all wood to either side. And again, the upper right shed dormer is designed to match the previously approved shed dormer on the left. And you can see the roof hatch coming up alongside the right edge of the elevator overrun. There are 4 additional windows proposed in that center gable. Right now there's just 2. This would allow additional daylight into the residential apartment. Side view from Chapel Street. It's from here it looks the same. You do see the railing of the roof hatch beyond. It's kind of way beyond. In this picture behind the elevator overrun, in perspective you won't really see it, but in 2D elevation you do. And then on the far right of this image, you see that center gable, which we propose to be shingled, and it is about 3 feet higher than it was previously. Close-up detail of that recessed balcony up in the gable. The shingles would wrap around to the inside of that. We are proposing a metal railing. But all the trim is wood, the door is wood, and the windows are the same as approved elsewhere on the building, which is all wood Pella. And these are the perspective views. This is from Chapel Street. at Sheaf. Head on Sheaf Street, and further down Sheaf towards Penhallow. The Pella windows, same as previously approved. It's a painted aluminum railing system on the right, and the Colby sliding windows are on the bottom. It's essentially the same profile as the Nano windows, except they don't fold, they slide. And that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
John?
I've got a few questions. The front door, you're saying is going to be the same style as was approved. I'm not sure it's going to be successful in a 3-foot wide door. I'm really not used to that division of the glass up at the top like that, with that horizontal muntin. I'm wondering where that choice came from, even originally.
Oh, originally? I think it was based on a 6-panel door, trying to keep the language of the 6-panel door and replacing the panels with glass on the upper parts so that customers don't get whacked in the face when the doors open, being a restaurant.
I'm not sure it's successful in glass, however, myself, personally. The sliding windows, are they simulated divided light? Because it doesn't have any detail about that on your little Colby thing here.
Yes, simulated divided light,
Yeah.
all wood.
And so my big problem is with the back here. It's seemingly, it looks to me, looking down at the roof, that the massing has increased measurably. Is that correct or not?
The massing is bigger than it was before, mostly because of that flat roof in the middle, which you can't see from anywhere, which is not higher than it was before. It's just we're carrying it over from that second dormer to the firewall on the left. The shed dormer is actually lower. It's a lower roof line than the gable peak that used to be there along the street front, because we're lowering it and sloping it back. It's wide. It's a different shape. It's a shed instead of a gable.
Yeah, but the 2 gable peaks, I mean, they did replicate kind of a traditional shape with traditional windows, actually, placement and such. Well, which brings me to how can you explain your new gabled addition, the style, in context with Sheaf Street? Now, God knows we have had enough problems, say, with fitting new buildings in with Sheaf Street. And now I'm seeing something with, I believe it's called a Belvedere. I'm not sure, but is it a Belvedere? Anyways,
no.
it's nothing that I've seen downtown. I've never seen. It's more like something that you would see in 1900 large shingle-style building or something like that. So how does this relate to the rest of Sheaf Street?
So this is in the view shed of Chapel Street as well, and there's a apartment building on Chapel Street which has the rounded balconies and the paneled decks and whatnot, and columns and porches. So we're playing on that a little bit for the idea of a deck that's above street level, and that's where this came from. The arch, you see the arches in plan on Chapel Street, and the gable form is the same that was there. There are lots of gable end houses on Sheaf Street, so that's not different. The only thing that's really different is that we have a recessed porch up in the gable.
It's a very elaborate design on the back of the building. I mean, to me now, it has almost a school building quality to it or something. I'm not sure that it's successful, but I'll let somebody else.
Anybody else? Yes, Martin?
I think I can approve the changes in the back. I think the most glaring element that stands out and is inconsistent with the rest of the architecture is the pipe rail that you can see at the very peak of the roof, of the flat roof. I'm sure we can do something that's more related to the kind of rail that you do have in the recessed gable.
At the roof hatch?
Yes.
Oh, we could change that. We can make it
I-
glass. if you
I
want.
knew you
We
could.
thought a pipe rail would be the least visible because there's not much to it. It's only there for OSHA. It doesn't have to be the pickets and the guardrail.
Might as well play it up and, you know, right now it just really looks like an afterthought. I do find that on H 3.2, that shape as you meet the brick building seems a little truncated. I don't know if there's any way you can make that look more like something that we are traditionally, that we would typically see. Is there a space behind there? Is that,
There is a space between, it sort of jogs back now, if you look at the roof plan. So there's a space between that cheek wall and the party wall of the building next to it.
it's okay. It just seems a little odd, but I think I'm not sure anyone will really, your eye will go to that area. But just the pipe rail it just kind of glaringly stands out as something that's alien to the rest of the architecture. I'm done.
Yes, Larry.
Hi. I do like what you've done with the symmetry back there in the back on Sheath Street. I mean, you removed the two gables, but you made the two shed dormers symmetrical. The windows don't quite line up, but that's okay. The overall effect, I think, you've got symmetry with the gable in the middle and the shed dormers equally spaced. And I'm assuming the windows can't be symmetrical, probably because of interior room divisions. I mean, that would just be my assumption. So I like it on the whole, particularly your arch up there. I mean, looks great. Back on the State Street side, I'm going to go a little bit with what John had mentioned on that entry door. I understand why you would want to go from a double door to a single door with a restaurant. That makes perfectly logical sense. It's just that you've got that, whatever you want to call it, the little bit of roof there up above the door. So suddenly you go from two very wide doors to one single door. And I think there might be a way to perhaps make that still look much the way it was if those side panels, instead of being whatever it is, 4 glass panels, if they were somehow 2 panels replicating the division that you have in the door itself. That might.
So solid? So solid side panels instead of glass?
Yeah, I think it might make it, you might not even, it might match the little roof there. I'm at a loss for what you call it, but it might match that little roof a little bit better, than the glass panels. But I don't know. It's just my take on it. I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chairman, I like Mr. Wyckoff, find a little bit of a jerky reaction to the expression of the cottage gable sticking out of the wall on the Sheath Street side. I think it's inappropriate. The building, the wing, will say that you have a flanking on either side is unadorned. It's pretty basic. I don't have the architectural terms for it, but plain, and does not have the color and lightness and the openness of a Palladian articulation of a balcony on a shingled facade. I think it's just played wrong. I don't have a problem with the idea of creating some sort of symmetry with a centerpiece and flanking pieces, but I think I think you're off the mark on the centerpiece. And I, like John, have a problem with if we're going to introduce a 6-panel door, the 4 panels of glass, it seems wrong. I could see it divided, particularly in a 3-foot door, where you don't want that coldness of a huge light of glass above the lock rail. I can see dividing that vertically, but making it into 6 little panels is a little too much. I'm also going to back up here and say I was never a fan and remain not a fan of the articulating windows. It's exciting to me to find that you are coming around to my way of thinking about how horrible they are, but putting sliders in that I know nothing at all about seems like it's a place too far for me to go. So I'm not going to be of any help at all on this.
Right. Any other questions, comments on this?
I think my concerns have already been addressed.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I also question, I'll agree with the inset porch inside the gable. It does seem a little bit out of place where it's such a fancy, pretty, well designed. Not that I don't like it, but it does seem out of place as something that's kind of too fancy for this very sort of, as we're saying, a very simple and plain side street elevation. So I don't know if that could be simplified a bit to have, probably just taking out sort of the Palladian arrangement of it. Would
Just
make
have
it a little
a
bit
simple
simpler.
rectangular opening.
Yeah. Maybe. Any other thoughts?
Can I add to that?
No, it's the only Palladian thing that's there.
Yep.
I think it looks more complex than it is. If you look at it on H0.3, that's more what you're going to see. Wouldn't you agree, Tracy? It's the rail and the openings, because the door beyond is not going to be seen from the street level or anything like that. So.
Well, I mean, if you want to see what it looks like, look at the eye level views. That's a seagull view.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the next
it's
pages have the street level
3.0.
views, and you can see in perspective
What number is
what
it?
it would look like as you walk by.
Did you do H 3.0?
Oh.
There you go. Whoop, go back. Okay.
So,
Yeah. I mean, that shows my complaint even more. I mean, the reality is it looks like maybe a house on Richards Avenue or something, you know.
If
I don't know.
If I can try to articulate what I think is bothering me is the proportion between the windows below and the very, very large openings above.
Mm-hmm.
The openings above go all the way to the top of the gable, and they fill the entire space. And then when you look below, those are relatively small windows. There's a lot of wall. And so I think the proportions between, just among the structure itself, not to mention what you see right and left, it just stands out significantly. And I think maybe that's what's bothering some of us.
all right. Well, I don't know where else to go from here, unless anybody has any other things. I can go to the public hearing, but I also wanted to give you a chance to respond to some of the things. I don't know if if you're willing to consider any changes, since this is a public hearing. We can either,
Sure. Well, so we'd love at least to get the roof, I mean, some of the simple things approved that we can, because construction's underway. For example, a
Okay.
roof hatch is important to be able to access the roof. It's actually required by code. So if we want to change that pipe railing to a fancy wood balustrade, fine, or a glass one that you can't see, that's fine. Again, we think that's the most invisible one we could pick, but we're happy to do whatever you like on that railing. And then on the front door, we were just matching the other doors on the project that were previously approved. They're already like that, but if you want to do something different, that would be great. We'd love to have an all-glass door. If you think that's okay, that would be even better.
okay, well, we can do sort of a partial approval and continue some of the other items. Certainly the railing can come back as admin approval and, certain things like that. So let's get some public comment now, and then we'll figure out what the motion needs to be. So I'd like to open it up to the public. If you have something to say or comment on, please come to the podium. And just come and introduce yourself, please.
I'm Sandell Morse. I live at 29 Chapel Street. And so the view from my living room and from my tiny little deck that was referenced earlier is the back of that building. And I have one question and then a few comments. And my one question is, how many square feet does this proposal of this matching gable add to the project?
I don't know. Okay, we don't have that information on hand.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
I think that's important because what has happened, I came to the first, it was on Zoom, I went to the first hearing, and I could hardly hear. It was a pandemic time, it was awful. I evidently missed a second notice, but I think that the style of that gable, which I don't know what to call it, is very massive, and it gives that whole building a very massive feel from where I see it. And also on Sheaf Street, it's massive as it is, and to propose a second massive gable that matches that may be symmetrical, but I don't believe that it is in keeping with Sheaf Street. And I love that narrow, that slanting roof. And I was back there today and I took some pictures and I thought, oh, what are they proposing? What do they want to do? Because I liked those two roof lines looked in keeping with the street, and they were graceful, and their space, there's a feeling of space. As of now in Portsmouth, I think what we really need is that feeling of space more and more, and a view of sky. So I'm very much against that second gable. The first one is there, we've got it, but I'd hate to see a second one there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think she was referencing the second shed roof. The gable is the central.
not the gable, the shed roof.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else from the public wanting to speak to this?
Good call.
Please.
Thank you. My name is Tom Irwin. I live at 28 Chapel Street, just around the corner from the project. And I guess I'll echo some of the sentiments that have been expressed about the way this fits or really doesn't fit into the current feeling of Sheaf Street. That gable in particular and some of the design elements. Just, again, I think it does not fit the current sort of simplicity and historic feel in that part of town and on Sheaf Street in particular. So wanted to voice those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Tom, nice work on your house.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful restoration.
All right. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Anyone online?
I don't see anyone with a raised hand.
Okay, great. All right, I will then close the public hearing and wait for some sort of a motion where we can keep the project moving forward, but then continue some of the sticky parts. Anybody have an idea?
I think the motion should come from some of the voices that are concerned about some of these
Yeah,
elements.
I could give a motion
Great.
that we approve the project with the exception of the design of the gable on Sheaf Street, the doors on State Street, and the railing up on the roof. But that's it.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right.
Yeah. And I would just like to say, if they brought this back, even this same shape back, simplified with clapboards and, it looks like a regular building that belongs there, it would be a different story, but
Okay.
c'est la vie.
All right, any other discussion? I do need some findings of fact for this.
I need to put it off for a month?
Well, we're approving some of it.
No.
That's what your motion says, so we need a little bit of something, at least the massing and the roof hatch.
All right. Well, let's see. That's why I'm putting it off for a month.
Just to clarify, is this to approve the actual massing of
Yeah.
it'll approve the both shed dormers?
Yes, that's what is, that's the motion.
I can't find anything. Let's just say construction materials, including technological systems and features. I mean, that's it. Who seconded it?
That's, Dan did.
Yeah. Let him come up with something.
Yeah, do you have any? I mean, if we're really struggling with our findings of facts, then.
This is not good.
Maybe the whole thing needs to be continued to.
Tracy did suggest that she needed the roof hatch to move forward, and
Correct.
I think that nobody seems to have an objection with the roof hatch and the guardrail. They're happy to change. So, John, may I make an amendment to your motion? May I make an amendment to your motion?
Certainly,
Okay.
yes.
So my amendment, my new revised motion would be to approve the roof hatch and guardrail, the design of which will come back as an administrative approval. And continue the rest to the next meeting.
Is that okay with you, John?
Yes.
And Dan, do you accept that?
Second.
How about all the window changes that they want?
I don't believe that is something that is, could we find out if it's urgent?
It was previously approved as nano windows, and we'll probably just keep it. We were hoping to simplify it with a slider, so that's the choice.
I'm happy approving the
windows?
sliding windows, if that's what the applicant wants to
So
do.
just the front door and the shape of the back?
Yeah. So the approval is for the roof hatch, the guardrail, and the changing of the nano windows to a sliding window.
Okay.
And everything else would be put off.
No, we're going to put off the massing as well. Sorry. I think that's what that's what I'm saying.
So I would say that those changes complement and enhance the architectural and historic character and are compatible with design of surrounding properties. Does that sound good, John?
All right, so this will be, I assume we'll continue the rest of it to next month? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
The chair votes aye. Thank you. We'll see you again about this. All right. Thank you, Tracy. All right. The next one, she's not going far, is the petition of One Market Square LLC owner for property located at 1 Congress Street, wherein permission is requested to allow a second one-year extension of the certificate of approval originally granted on August 2nd, 2022, for renovations to an existing structure, repair and upgrade building facades along Congress and High Streets, and new construction to an existing structure, replace rear shed additions with new four-story addition, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 117 as Lot 14 and lies within the Character District 4, Downtown Overlay, and Historic Districts.
Good evening, Tracy Kozak. Thanks for having us back. You're well familiar with the project. This is our second request for a one-year extension. The first request was to coordinate the off-site improvements. As you may recall, there's an extensive off-site plan to improve the pedestrian ways behind this lot, connecting essentially Commercial Alley with Fleet Street. So to bring that pedestrian experience all the way to Fleet Street through what is now Haven Court. There are a lot of city infrastructure. There are a lot of various lot lines adjustments that had to be coordinated. So that's what we've been doing for the past year. And that continues now with the, there's an agreement under contract with the JJ Newberry's property, and that plays into the coordination of utilities and access along that back street. We want to be able to design Haven Court before building the building, and we need to coordinate all the pieces with all the abutting properties and the city utilities that go through there to make that work. So that is why we're asking for this extension.
Sure.
I'm happy to go through the, nothing has changed since last time. It's an apartment building, it's not a hotel. And the design is as before. There was one zoning change since this was approved, which was when we had this approved, the rear addition, the height limit at that time was 3 stories at 40 feet. Since then, it has increased to a 4th short story and 45 feet, but we haven't changed the height. It still complies with the lower height, no change. So happy to go through it, or if you have any questions.
I don't know that we have to go through it all again, but it does sound like it's a lot of moving pieces in a very complicated, large project. So does anyone have any comment or question on it and giving them another year to figure all this stuff out?
Just making the observation that there's been zero change in the context of surrounding properties, and so there's no reinterpretation required.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Thank you. Anyone in the public who wants to speak to or for or against this?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Before the public,
Sorry,
the public speaks.
hold on for the public just 1 second. Yes.
I'm confused. We're looking at an extension, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But then there are multiple different clouded changes, maybe minor, but I've never,
Those were previously approved. So we had come back with some minor changes about a year ago.
Okay.
This is a compilation of everything that's been previously approved.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the same set from 2022.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry, in the public.
Good evening, Duncan McCallum, 536 State Street. I'm here to speak in opposition to the request for a second extension of the certificate of approval. I oppose the approval for one very simple reason, which is that this project should never have been approved in the first place. I am dumbfounded that this Historic District Commission approved this project. It is reminiscent of the monstrosity on Penhallow Street that the same developer built that has caused so much tumult on Penhallow Street and negatively affected the surrounding businesses during its construction. The existing project is too large. It is out of character with its surroundings. It will change the entire character of Market Square. Now, I assume that all of you know that size, untoward size, undue size, is a ground for denying a certificate of approval. If a developer were to come here before you and propose to build a building the size of the Empire State Building in the middle of Market Square, I take it for granted that you would immediately say, no, that is inappropriate. It is out of character for the historic district, and it doesn't belong there. Even if it was otherwise a faithful replica of, say, the old New Hampshire State House, which did in fact sit in the middle of Market Square in the 1700s. So the same goes here. It is too big. Size matters. This project should never have been approved in the first place, and I urge you to deny the request for a second extension of the certificate of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Anyone online? All right, thank you. I close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this for the second time.
Second?
All right. Any discussion?
It was a good project then, it's a good project now.
We can continue the same findings of fact that we
Thank
did
you.
2 years ago. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes, all right, sorry, any opposed? Chair votes aye. You have your second extension. Thank you. All right. Public hearing number 3, petition of Nyla LLC, owner for property located at 324 Maplewood Avenue, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace all siding on the structure, repair exterior stairs, corner boards, and window trim as needed, and replace the storefront windows, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 141 as Lot 1 and lies within the Character District 4L2 and Historic Districts. Who is here to present this application?
I am Anne Marie Waterhouse.
Hi. All right, we're online. Thank you. Please, feel free to present your project. We can, Isaac can scroll through your application on the screen.
Sure. It's just really that the siding has deteriorated and the corner boards and trim boards, et cetera. My client would like to restore it and have it look the same, if not better, and more in line with the historical character. And make it safe is her primary goal. She acquired this along with the neighboring garage that she has already renovated and gone through HDC with you guys.
Okay. So, any?
Yeah, well, I had a few questions, just from, if you have the information for my own edification. I don't know the history of this building and how the storefront occurred. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or do you?
I don't. Yep. No, I don't. And the cabinet shop is still there and intends to stay there. I think she, if that were to ever change from not being a storefront, she would come back and go through all of the necessary process. I think her primary goal right now is preservation of this building because it is or has been so neglected by previous owners. And it is deteriorating.
Okay. And the dividers between the storefront windows, you're making no changes there. So it's literally just repair you're asking for.
It's in kind, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other
Sure.
questions, John?
I mean, I can't help but notice that this is the time to put windows on the side that looks down Dennett Street. I don't get it. I mean, there must have been another building tucked right up against it at one time. But to approve this project as presented, this is awkward. It really is, to have that blank clapboard thing be repaired and staring at me every time I drive down Dennett Street.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Ooh.
It needs windows.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, but also I would think that it would be better to have the siding repaired and replaced. Son's windows say that is not something that she would want to pursue versus having kind of clapboards that are falling off and beyond repair.
Yes, Rich?
She's not getting into any interior renovations of this house at this time.
Is this an essentially like replacement in kind?
Yes.
So
Essentially, although the windows are
They're Anderson, right?
the existing windows. I just wanted to get a little bit more information on those, that they are,
She would skip the windows if it held back from being able to get this building to get some repair. There are visible holes in parts of the siding that are probably going after the sheeting.
I don't even, well, if you're just repairing siding, I don't even think you need our approval. This is a replacement in kind. It's the windows that we would, I mean, you don't need us to say, yes, you can replace your clapboards, please do that, that's fine. It
Great.
is more just the window replacements and storefront adjustments that we just wanted to take a look at. Does anybody else have any comments or questions on that?
See a little more information on what they're going to do with that storefront in the way of windows, but the rest is in kind, I think.
Yeah, Martin?
Yeah, like you said, it's in kind, so, and we can't tell an applicant they need to put windows that have never been in there. They come to us with their application.
I just did, though.
I know, but it makes us look foolish when
Well, it's not foolish.
yeah, it does.
Well, we're not going to, we get these are opinions, it's fine, you can air your opinion, but I guess for me personally, I would like to have a little bit more information on the windows, if you want to move forward with those, simply because they look like they're wood windows, they look like they're old wood windows, they're probably not original because they're 202.
I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm looking at the double hung windows.
Yeah, I think that they are the same as, so I included, she had replaced on her home, which is 2 doors down, and I included that because I believe she had the same old windows in that building as well, and she replaced them with what you see here, and that was approved, and so she was willing to use the exact same thing to do that, and we would match the trim. The trim is what's different on the space we're currently looking at.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
This is how we get into trouble.
Yes.
When things go sideways and you've got nothing to stand on.
Yes.
I would like to suggest, just to throw this out as a suggestion, we're having a meeting again
Next week.
If we were to continue this application and give the applicant time to come back, we don't have to advertise it. She can just bring it in with her. A spec on the window and a cut sheet on any new materials that they were going to put in, a species on the clapboard, just a handful of things so that we could have something to say this is exactly what's going to happen. Again, not because there's an issue with the applicant or an issue with what they want to do, but we are creating a history. It needs to be correct.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely, it's a very good idea. Yeah, does that sound reasonable? This wouldn't be holding back anything. You are still, certainly allowed to make any repairs that are necessary to the clapboards or trim as long as it's a replacement in kind. But if next week, it also doesn't look like on the actual application you're asking for replacement of the double hung windows, just the storefront windows. So,
I think that might have been a typo on my end.
Okay,
I think
fine.
I meant the storefront facade windows.
facade
Excuse me.
ones. Okay,
That's
So-
what was
all right.
Sorry,
the
we're
missing
trying
word
not to throw
was.
Isaac under the bus there.
That's fine. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're able to, by next week, bring in a little bit more information, just specs on the replacement windows. I'd like some photos of the current condition of the windows because they are old, even though they're not original. They are old and could be potentially repaired and reused for many, many more years. So
Sure.
that would just help us make that decision.
Okay, sounds good. If she decides to abandon the windows, would that eliminate the need for that?
Yes, and you can, certainly replace the storm windows if that would help with anything. I don't know that, well, you could get an administrative approval if you wanted to put in some new storm windows that are not wood. If you want to put wood storm windows in, that's an exemption. But yes, as long as nothing is changing in the storefront windows, it's all replacement in kind. No, I don't think that you would need to come back at all.
Okay.
So just let Isaac know. We will continue this now, but just let Isaac know what you decide to do.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. So,
I'll make a motion to continue this project until next week.
Second. Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Here, number 4, petition of St. John's Church, owner for property located at 101 Chapel Street, wherein permission is requested to allow the installation of HVAC equipment, rooftop mounted solar panels, that's not really an HVAC, or as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 106 as Lot 62 and lies within the Civic, Downtown Overlay, and Historic Districts. Hi, please introduce yourself.
Hello, Steve Cavallaro with 603 Solar.
Hi.
Give you a brief overview of the project. We're looking at putting 102 solar panels on the east and west facing roofs on the church. It's actually not on the church building itself, it's on the southern building. Tried to avoid using the church roof itself to preserve the historical significance of the church building. On the west face, we have 54 panels. It's 3 rows of 18. On the east face, we have 48 panels. It's 3 rows of 18 minus a bunch of panels due to pre-existing vent pipes and obstructions on the roof. The panels that we're using are provided from Qcell. They are all black panels. It's a black aluminum frame with black cells and a thermal pre-stressed glass with anti-reflection coating. The panels are 68 inches by 45 inches. As far as conduit goes and visibility of anything on the exterior of the building, there really won't be anything. Conduit from the roof down into the main electrical room will all be inside the pre-existing walls. It's a brick building, everything's going to be inside. On the outside of the building, there will be one piece of equipment that has to be located for electric code, and that is a disconnect switch, and it's about 9 inches wide, 16 inches tall, 4 inches deep, just a small jackknife handle.
Okay, great. Isaac, I believe they sent in some visuals.
Yes, 1 second. All right, so this is the view if you're going down Bow Street.
That, I believe, is the view going down from the very top of Chapel Street.
Oh, excuse me. I think might have just been labeled.
Once you start going down the hill,
sorry,
you'll actually not even have the roof in sight because the roof is just too tall.
So excuse me. Yes, this would be the top of Chapel. The photo. What is? Excuse me. Slight technical difficulty with the sharing of.
Could I just ask a
multiple
question
screens?
while
Of course.
he's technical?
Yes.
Those aren't the panels you're using, though.
No. The grid
why are
lines that
they
you see
shown
on
on
it, that's just showing each individual panel, but when
We don't
you're actually
need-
looking at it, it's going to be just one giant piece
Black.
of black. Exactly. And the roof is already a dark color, which helps to blend everything in together. It's not like it's going on a tan or a gray or a light blue roof or anything like that.
Okay, great. Yeah, and this is the view from Bow Street.
Correct.
All right. Any questions or comments about this application? Yes.
Thank you.
Rich?
Thank you. I was excited to see this application. I appreciate you putting it on the accessory part of the building, the new part. I also appreciate that it's going to be all black on a dark roof. So I think we've done all we can to make it as minimally visible as possible. But yeah, that's all I'll say.
Thank you.
Yes, Dan.
Yes, thanks to Councillor Blaylock and Councillor Denton, we've been looking at solar panels. And everywhere we look, national, big HDCs, little HDCs, they're all based on the same principle that we had, minimally visible. This is a great building, and it's maximally visible. You're going to see it when you come out from the theater. You're going to see it when you go around Bow Street. You can see it on Chapel Street. You have to be on the other sidewalk. And there's even talk about a big stairway down from there into the Macintosh lot. So this is a big switch to maximally visible. It's a great building. Part of the problem was they did such a great job to make the parish house look like the original church, that it doesn't look like a secondary. It all looks together. So I think we can't say we're putting it on a secondary piece. We can't say that it's not going to be visible. And I think if we put this amount on top of a hill, on top of one of our greatest properties, then maybe we should give it up altogether, as Councilor Denton and Blaylock would like us to do. I can't see this or approve it at all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other opinions or questions, comments? Yes, Martin?
Who produced the renderings?
I did.
Okay. Well, they don't really tell you the true picture and the true nature of what we're going to be seeing, unfortunately.
I did provide other pictures that had 3 recent installations using the exact same panels from a nice vantage point where you're kind of below them looking up. I don't know if you have the ability to pull those pictures up. I think I sent 3 or 4 of them.
I think I just grabbed these ones as they were more pertinent to
Yeah.
the actual
I
view
think
from this particular
in general, we understand what the panels will look like and appreciate that they're all black and everything. It's more what we're concerned with is the visibility of the installation on the historic structure from walking around town. So this does give us kind of an idea, but it's, this is a little bit of CGI land, So I hope that everyone got a chance to actually walk around the site and see what it looks like. Larry?
Can I continue?
I'm sorry.
I was not finished.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. I too agree that these are too visible and that they are out of character with historic architecture. They're out of character with the building. They will be seen for the most part from the public way. I could maybe consider the ones facing the parking lot as a compromise. But this is just a step too far. It's a huge application of panels in a very public area, and as Dr. Brown said, eventually with the McIntyre being developed, the church is going to be a feature of, I would suppose, a planning feature of what occurs in the McIntyre. So for that reason, I cannot support this application.
Larry, did you have?
I'm going to go along with my 2 compatriots here and say the same thing. I think it's not only a building that is prominent today, it's a building because of its historical nature. I mean, when it was rebuilt from the fire, the great statesman Daniel Webster, there's even a pew inside, Daniel Webster worshipped here. It's one of the most prominent buildings in the town, and as hard as everybody has worked using nationally accepted, nationally recognized definitions, minimally visible, word for word in line with the National Park Service, this flies in the face of it. And I would probably sound a little cynical, but yeah, if you grant this, you might as well just throw in the towel. And I've mentioned this different times in every meetings where this has come up because I've made the phone calls myself. Our towns which are most like us in the region, Concord, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the Revolution, Newburyport, Mass, Newport, Rhode Island, they all allow solar panels, but places where it's minimally visible, subject to HDC review. And the things that we're working on right now, which is still opposed by 2 members, is very cutting edge. We've proposed allowing for residents to just, if you can't see it from a public right-of-way, go for it, have fun with it, put up as many as you want. But in this case, it's visible from any of 3 streets, and I think your renderings don't show that. I think perhaps instead of your renderings, it would have been more accurate to have like a public right-of-way photograph. So I mean, I'm non-voting on this, but I could never support this, so.
Yes, Margot.
May I suggest that we reserve our opinions on whether we're going to vote for or against until we have a motion?
Yes.
If we have any more questions for the applicant, now would be the time, but.
Yes, thank you.
I think they deserve a right to know where people stand.
Sure, and but that's a conversation we can have after everything. Yes, Rich.
Is the current roof asphalt?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The bottom edge does have a little bit of a standing seam metal.
Yeah.
But the panels will be above that.
And what year was the building that the solar panels are being presented on? What year was that building built? 1953. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and that is not the primary structure, correct? Where they're going?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else, John?
So it's black solar panels with a non-glare finish on a black asphalt roof. Asphalt is certainly not a historical material, but we're treating it as such. We have just found out today in the paper that I saw that the last 12 months have been the hottest 12 months in a row since recorded weather. So we're looking at a situation here where I'm figuring that they're 400 watts per panel.
425.
Yeah, and over 100 panels what is that? 40,
102 panels.
40 over 40 kilowatts. What is?
Yep.
Yeah. This is a lot of power on this building. What do they intend on doing with this power is a question I have for you. Is this,
Right now, this system is designed to produce approximately 130% of the existing usage that's currently being done in the building.
Yeah.
And with the way net metering works here in the state of New Hampshire, the goal of that is to try to eliminate as much of their electric cost as possible. If a system is only designed for 100% offset of your existing electric usage, it will not offset your entire cost. And that was the goal of this project, is to save money.
is there going to be any batteries, for instance?
There are
involved?
not.
No.
Okay. One more question?
Yeah. So if this were to not, we would be preventing them from saving money, essentially, preventing the church from saving money on electricity.
That is an accurate statement, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Okay, your electrical calculation, you said the one roof face east, the other roof face west. The sun's only in one part of the sky at a time. So you're only getting energy on the east panel and not the west, and then you're getting the west panel and not the east. Does your calculation take into account for that?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
If we took that same system and put it on the southern roof, it would probably receive about 30% more power.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the applicant? All right, I am going to open it to public hearing. Thank you very much for your information. If anyone is wanting to speak to, for, or against this project, please come to the podium.
Good evening, Sue Polidura, Middle Street. And I wanted to know the reasons why the church wanted to do this is to save money on electricity. I thought that we had community power in Portsmouth, that people can go in and get their electricity at a discount. Because it's not only the St. John's that has a problem. Many other churches, I go to one in Greenland that sits 1,100 people. They have big expenses when it comes to utilities. So, and they don't have solar panels yet. Why is it that we are going after the 2%, the most historic 2% that this group has overview under the historic district, to do something like this? Couldn't we help the church by encouraging them to use the community power, maybe other sources that will help them save money in their utilities, just like we should be doing this for the other 98% of Portsmouth that has the same issue. We have the highest cost in electricity and utilities probably in the country. I think we're number 47 or 48 in the country. So let's encourage them to use other alternatives. Right now, as Mr. Brown said, that building is totally inseparable from the main building. The way you look at it, the way it was designed to fit the original building. Now, I don't want to oppose anybody that wants to do solar, but this is massive. It is seen from everywhere, and I will thank you for objecting to this. This is totally out of place for that building. Not only did you have Daniel Webster in there, George Washington came there. There were many other very prominent people. Governors of New Hampshire, royal governors attended there. They are buried there. So it's a very significant, it's one of the most significant historical places in town. So I will object to this, and I will ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Rob Stevens. I'm the rector at St. John's. You guys do not have a fun job. This is hard. This is really hard. And it's not just about money. It's not even primarily about money. But money matters. I'm chief steward of that building. I'm the rector. And in our canons, I'm in charge of that building. And it all kind of comes down to me, but it also comes to these people that are here and all the people that are pretty excited about this opportunity. And guess what? We're a nonprofit. And so we have to raise money every year. I call it the fall begathon, when we go, hey, give us your money. And we have to take care of that building. And we've done a pretty good job lately. You all did an amazing job in helping us connect the buildings and have accessibility. And I realize we're kind of dancing this dance. But also, there is a south end that's been underwater a lot lately. And I'm not a scientist, but I believe in science as well as I believe in God. And I think history is going to say what it's going to say. And we do care about how it looks. I really do. I mean, I'm an Episcopal priest. I mean, HDCs and the Episcopal priesthood has something in common. They could say it about you, they say it about us. Episcopal priests say, how many Episcopal priests does it take to change a light bulb? And everybody in the room goes, change? Because we don't like it. And it's hard. But I really encourage you all to think about how we might think about this, because it's more than just money. Yes, that would be really helpful to not have an electric bill. That would save a lot of money. But it's also a moral imperative of how we care for the planet. And I'm not here to preach at you, although that is what I do for a living. But I'm also saying that how do we think about this as compromise, as thinking of going forward? Because I do think in a couple years, in a couple decades, we're not going to have this conversation. But we are at a turning point. But we are stewards of that building. Yes, St. John's and me first, but all of us. We don't want to see that building to go anywhere. We want to see it maintained and cared for. So first and foremost, I say thank you for what often is a thankless task that you all do. But also I hope you will kind of get creative and think about how this might be the right thing today. Not just for today, but for the past and also for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Peter Huda, 280 South Street. This building is on the National Historic Register. This building is at the core of the historic district. I totally agree with the three gentlemen over there and over here. To let this go as visible as it will be from as many directions as it is totally against what is in your code at the current time. Even if the changes that are being worked on go through, it is still not minimally visible anywhere. The historic district is something that is very precious to the city of Portsmouth. And once it's gone, once they put it on, they can't put it on and take it off, Councilor Blaylock. It's still ugly. So I urge you to hold to your values and hold to what your regs say. And please save this and save the HDC. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, hi. My name is Reginald Baird, a member of St. John's Church, and I've been going there since 2013. I'm a retired Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander, and I've always been a part of maintenance and repair. And so I would just like to say, in reference to the solar panels, yes, you can put them on and take them off. Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House, and Ronald Reagan took them off. So you can. But the point is that solar panels have come a long way, and they're made on the side facing Chapel Street. It's not a patch job. It's the same color as the roof, and it's going to be of significant value to us. We had one utility bill on, I believe it was about 3 or 4 years ago, that was $27,500. That's a lot of money for the church. And so we have to think of the community service that we provide to the Seacoast community as far as feeding Common Table. We have Judy Roberts here. I don't know if you know of Common Table. We feed anywhere from 75 to 175 people every week. We did it all through COVID. I mean, we can think of the historic reference of, I think something might have thrown you off when Steve mentioned that we're the historical church, which is next, it's adjacent to, and it is attached to the new building that's in between, but the building that the panels are going onto is not a historic building. It was built in 1953. It's called Thaxter Hall. So I think there's a little bit of confusion there. The weight of the panels cannot, the roof on the church couldn't sustain the weight of the panels. It's not going onto the church. It's going onto Thaxter Hall. The visibility of being able to see it from Chapel Street is absolutely minimal, because I was there even this morning. As you drive down, you would have to be physically looking across this to look at it, and it's the same color of the asphalt roof. So, I mean, there are some things to consider here. We just really need to, as the gentleman was referencing, the hottest 12 months we've experienced was this year. You know, between last June and this year. And so to utilize the sun for something, it just means that we're utilizing energy to save money and to provide a benefit to the Portsmouth community, the Seacoast community, and we're actually catching up with modern times. Yeah, we would love the historic district to remain as it was in the 1800s, but this is not the 1800s. We need to, at some point, say, what is the cost-benefit analysis of what we're doing? We can remain with the asphalt shingles, and they're good for 30 years, change them out every 30 years, and fill the dump. We could put on the solar panels, and they protect the asphalt below it. So we have an extended life of the shingles, and thereby saving money on the utilities and doing a community service by saying that we've modernized the building, we're saving money by getting off the grid. And when we have these days like we experience in New York, when you have a higher utility utilization, when it's a very hot day, you actually crash the grid because you're using too much. I mean, I'm trying to find a balance, because there is a point where you say solar is doing such a wonderful job by having alternative energy. And we can't simply oppose everything just because we want to remain the way it was. We're trying to have this balance of saying that, yes, we're going to try to improve, we're going to try to utilize the sun, we can try to utilize alternative energy, and at the same time, we're going to do everything to try to keep it as historic as possible. This is a building that was built in 1953, and every day up to this week, we have improved by making it accessible to the handicap by putting automatic door openers. So we continue to do things for the community, and we appreciate the job you do, and we hope that you would, see the benefits of what we're trying to do. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, one question. When was the roof redone?
The roof on Thaxter Hall,
On the,
that was it's about 12 years old.
oh, just 12?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other-
One, can I ask a follow-on question related to that? The roof was redone. Is it architectural shingles?
It is.
Which mimic old shingles? In Baxter
It's
Hall.
the asphalt shingles.
Right, but they're architectural asphalt which mimic old shingles. And Baxter Hall was also constructed, maybe in 1953, but it was constructed to historically blend in.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, it blends with the original structure.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. We're not going to try and get into conversations here. Just
Thank you.
public comment. Thank you.
The church has art mimicking slate, but Baxter Hall is just asphalt shingles.
Right.
Was that a
Just so you-
question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak?
Good evening once again, Duncan McCallum, 536 State Street. I'm speaking in opposition to the current petition and the current plan, at least in its present form. Now, I know that you've all read the letter to the editor that I published in the Portsmouth Herald about a month and a half ago, and so you probably know my general feelings about this, summarizing some of the main themes of that letter. The way I see it, either you are committed to historic preservation or you're not. Now, if you're not, then go ahead and install all the solar panels you want to, because who cares? However, if you are committed to historic preservation, then, like everything else, historic preservation has its price. There are sacrifices and compromises that have to be made and costs that have to be paid. One of those costs is that solar panels have to go, or at least their use must be carefully scrutinized and sparingly allowed, for they are fundamentally inconsistent with the character of the historic district. I have no hesitation in saying that if it comes down to a choice between historic preservation and promoting green energy, I choose historic preservation. And green energy is just going to have to take a temporary back seat. My stance is fortified by the simple fact that even if you install solar panels in literally every home and every building in the entire city of Portsmouth, it wouldn't amount to so much as a drop in the bucket in terms of implementing renewable energy nationally or solving the worldwide problem of climate change. Now, turning attention to the petition at hand, you're talking about one of the historic buildings in all of Portsmouth, one of the most historic and prominent buildings in all of Portsmouth. I am told that it is one of 7 buildings in Portsmouth which is on the historic register. And for the reasons that have been mentioned by the people who have already spoken against the proposal, solar panels just don't belong there. Now, I would modify everything that I've said in at least one respect. I've watched some of the hearings or some of the video replays of the hearings by this commission in which applications for solar panels have entertained, and I see that the manufacturers of solar panels are claiming that technology has reached the point where it is possible to fabricate solar panels which are actually indistinguishable from regular roofing materials, roofing shingles and other roofing materials. Now, if that's the case, then I have no problem with that. Now, being the cynical soul that I am, I'm not really willing to take the manufacturer's word at face value. I think that the issue should be studied a little bit more carefully. But if that's really the case, if you literally cannot tell the difference between the solar panels that it is possible to manufacture and ordinary roofing materials, then I think that's a fair balance between renewable energy and historic preservation, and I don't have any problem with it. A purist might argue, well, there's still a slight insult to the spirit of the Historic District Ordinance if you use inauthentic building materials on historic structures in downtown Portsmouth. But I'm willing to live with that as long as that's really true. If it is really true that it is literally impossible to distinguish some of the solar panels that are capable of being manufactured today with ordinary roofing materials, then I'm not going to be the one to stand in the way. I think that's a fair balance. However, I hasten to add that if the applicant comes forward with such a plan and with such roofing shingles, I think that a short leash should be applied to them to make sure that they honor their promises and that they comply with that. I think that there should be strict stipulations to make sure that the solar panels are indistinguishable from ordinary roofing materials. No excuses. But in any event, I am not satisfied that we've reached that point yet, and so I think that the present application should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the public wanting to speak? Sure.
Sue Polidura, Middle Street. I just want to keep driving this point that there is only 2% of historic property in Portsmouth. I was given those figures, but people at DPW who can do the GPS, all right? I did not just pull them out of the air. 2%. 98% in the city could do something about it. The tall buildings, the commercial buildings, you name it. We gotta preserve that 2%. It's not much to ask. You wanna save the planet? We cannot by just changing everybody in Portsmouth. We cannot do it. So let's just keep focus on the fact that we need to preserve that 2%. If you need to go after the other 98%, go at it. But this is the only ones we have. I consider that to be akin of putting solar panels over at the Old North Church in Boston. It doesn't fit historically. It were never going to be in such a position. I have a rendering. There is an old rendering of the old. It was called the Queen's Chapel before it became St. John's. That goes back to the mid-1700s because there was a tiny chapel in there before it was totally built up to the way we've seen it now. And this is going back to 1760s. It's not in 10 or 20 years. I doubt it very much that the water will come up and cover it. So let's just use reason. This is totally unacceptable. I really feel for the church. Believe me, I go to, like I said, the churches that I have attended, they have their electrical utility bills pale by comparison to theirs. So I do feel for them. But this is in the very heart of our historic district, and I am aiming to preserve that, and I will ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is, let's just try and keep any further to a minimum.
Really
Thank
brief.
you.
Again, I'm Reggie Barrett at St. John's Church. I'd just like to say that we so much respect the opposition on their quest to say that we should not do it. And, it almost comes down to if not now, when? I mean, this is, 2024, and we're trying to do something that is positive, something that helps everyone. And so, it's like in my previous job, my previous career, it's always what positive changes can we make? It's not like, oh, we can't do anything to help climate change or anything like that. We're not even talking about climate change. We're talking about something that's necessary right now, and we can say, okay, we won't grant it to St. John's in 2024, and then by 2025 or 2030, things are so bad that we're saying, okay, let's start doing it now. So at which point do we realize that the sense of urgency to step into the modern times, historic preservation is wonderful, but then there's a practical reality of what we're living with today. And it is that at some point in time, we're going to say, yes, we're going to do our best to make it blend in aesthetically. It's going to be pleasing to the eye, which I don't think it's that much off right now. But I think we really need to seriously consider when. We don't do it today, when? It's going to cost more and more the longer we wait, and I think the sense of urgency is to do it now. I really urge you to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Hopefully first-time speakers. Do we have people online who want to speak to? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Peter Rice. I served on the Portsmouth HTC during the Eileen Foley administration back when it was in the old City Hall. I currently serve on the HTC in Newcastle. I am a parishioner, incidentally, of St. John's. My family has been worshiping at St. John's since before it was a brick church, well before it was a brick church. This is more than just a matter of dollars and cents. You've got to see the big picture. 24 was the hottest year on record worldwide. 25 is on track to be even hotter. Arguably, our church are trying to be good stewards of the environment. And I think, as Reggie said a moment ago, we're getting close to the tipping point. I know that solar panels in Portsmouth have been a touchy issue. I can assure you they're a touchy issue in Newcastle, in our HTC. You've got to see the big picture here. Yeah, my family have deep roots here, and I can appreciate the opposition's words on preservation. You've got to find a delicate balance somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wanting to speak to, for, or against this petition? All right. Seeing no one rise, and there doesn't seem to be anyone online, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'd like to have a motion and a second, just so that we can, again, have conversation.
I'll make a motion to approve the application as presented. I believe it conservation and enhancement of property values, and it's compatible with innovative technologies with surrounding properties.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Okay, great. I know that we've had lots of discussion. Most people have expressed their views on this. I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to give any other commentary explaining their vote or their position.
It's all been
Rich
said.
has raised his hand.
Yeah, I'll just give a little a brief history. So back in 1973, my family bought the cheapest property in Portsmouth. You might be familiar with it now. It's now the old Fair Landing restaurant. That was not a desirable end of town. People were getting murdered there in the 80s. It was 70s. It was all sailors and wharf rats, bigger than your foot. My grandfather purchased that property with a couple partners, and they took care of it, and they made it nicer. And then some of the neighbors did the same. If we don't start making changes tonight, like these solar panels, all that's going to be underwater. You guys going to have to swim up to the old Fair Landing bar because it's not going to be there. We've already raised it 4 feet in the year 2000 to try to preserve it. But if it's underwater, is that preserving it? I don't think so. So, as I've said before, solar panels are not permanent. It's a mere paint color. It's a different color of the roof. If everyone really, that bothers you that much, that you want to prevent a nonprofit from doing something good for the community and saving some money, and the view of asphalt shingles is more important than that, then I think we really need to look at this commission.
Yes.
I would just simply say that if the next 12 months, if this was going to make the next 12 months cooler, I'd be all for it. If this was going to change the tides, I'd be all for it. It's not. We need to protect our historic environment. I can appreciate what you're trying to do, but please appreciate that, some things are worth sacrificing for, and this is one of them. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I would like the church to ask, what does the HDC do for you? One, it increases your property value. Two, it increases the numbers of people, and St. John's does amazing things for amazing people. But people are coming in to see our history, to see the church, and if we're going to give that up, just so your electric bill is a little less, you could possibly lose the benefits of being in the historic town. And there are a lot of benefits to it that we forget to weigh. We've had this discussion before. If I put solar panels on my roof, how much money I'm going to save? Well, you're in the historic district. You're already making money with property values and things like that. Do you want to ruin that too? That I think it has to be weighed.
So I'm just going to say we're veering off a little bit into the environmental discussions here, and so what is at hand and what is in our ordinance is visibility appropriateness. So I'm going to ask for our discussion to stick to that, and I'm sorry, Larry, now that we're in closed public hearing, there's no alternate voices.
So can I?
Yes, go ahead, Margot, you have not
So
spoken.
you're almost taking the words out of my mouth. This is a quasi-judicial board. Our responsibility is to adhere to our ordinances, our guidelines, and our goals. And to argue about whether these particular panels are going to save the environment, or whether solar panels in general are going to save the environment, is not what this board is here for. And personally, I can think of a lot of other things that science has proven would be more effective than solar panels in reducing a lot of things. But again, that is not what this commission is charged with. So I have to respond based on my charge as a member of this commission. So when I went to do my site walk and review this property, I noted a few things. Number one, the angle of this roof when you stand on Chapel Street is very, very low, and you cannot see solar panels on that roof for a large part of Chapel Street when you go down Chapel Street. And I agree that the dark coloring with the dark color of this roof would be very appropriate. However, on the other side, viewing this from Bow Street, it is much more visible. standing at the corner of Daniel Street and looking up Chapel, you get a very different view of the roof, and the solar panels would be much more visible than they are from the other direction. So, as a commissioner, I'm faced with a conundrum of, yes, in some ways it's minimally visible, but in other ways it's not. So, how am I supposed to make a decision based on that? And I'm still here thinking about that. Which is why I'm happy to hear from Mr. David Adams, who is over there thinking.
Been thinking a lot. Thank you very much for the introduction. First and foremost, I want to remind everyone that this evening, this commission has voted for the construction of a solar array in our district, just in case you're wondering. So it's not as simple as you'd like it to be. Although I certainly would rise to the opportunity to be the bad guy, you're missing the point. Yes, in terms of minimally visible arrays, there is I think, an argument to be had for the side on Chapel Street. I've walked it 4 times in the last 6 days. And I think that that's a really tough call to say that that's going to be a problem for the vision and appreciation of our historic buildings. I haven't heard anything about squirrel screening. That would do a great deal to make sure that there was one monolithic plane that we could view as a roof. Love to see that as part of the application. The side toward Bow Street, I think, is much more problematic. It provides much more opportunity for reflection, which I think is bad. It gives a much longer view, and there is a green tree there that we're all hoping survives, but it's not green all year long. Message to our solar contractor: you shot yourself on the foot with your massing models because you didn't get the roof pitches right. They were not good. And Isaac, can you get email here right now?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. Because I sent you
on this computer.
I sent you a picture of taken from Chapel Street. So I would support half of this application. I believe that makes a good sense. As far as historic materials, anybody that wants to talk about asphalt roofing can certainly say, oh my God, it's not a historic material. And so I should ignore anything to do with asphalt roofing. But asphalt roofing is part of the conundrum that we have. We, contrary to popular opinion, are living in the present and trying to preserve the past at the same time. And our whole panel here, it doesn't maybe look it to you, but it's all about compromising the needs of the people that live in the buildings and the needs of the people who are dead that provided them for us. We're trying to constantly maintain that balance, trying to find, everybody has their own personal sense of balance here. And we exercise that regularly. I'm sure you all have opinions. It's great. I exercise mine a couple of times a month right here on the stand in public. And there are all kinds of visions and all kinds of ways of looking at the problem of it. I don't have any carbon footprint in my electric bill in case that's the problem, and anybody with any sense can understand that. I also had water from the river lapping at the base of my driveway last Christmas or something like that. So I'm aware, I'm sensitive. I voted for some solar panel tonight. But I think the Bow Street side is too far for me at this moment. The Chapel Street side, properly screened, I think I would support. That's Dave's opinion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Yes, Rich?
The term minimally visible, I guess we keep coming back to that, and it's unfortunate because that was what I was worried about on the council. It remaining subjective, so it remains just up for interpretation, and doesn't matter what the rules say, it matters who sits here. So that'll change every year or every couple of years. It's really unfortunate. But minimally visible, I think they've done their job to make it as minimally visible as they can. This is what they need. This is what they're asking. We're supposed to help try to take care of our residents and our nonprofits. I'm willing to work with them. And it's just the view of a solar panel. it's not knocking down a building. It's not changing the building any way that it can be undone. It's like painting the roof. Basically, I really don't understand why people are so anti-solar. They don't want to even see it. So I wish that would be more explained. But I believe they've done their due diligence, making it as minimally visible as possible. The colors of the panel, they're trying to match the roof. They're flat. They're not putting it on the main structure. I mean, really, what more do we need to ask?
Thank you. Well, I haven't said anything really on this at all, and my job is to make sure everybody says everything. So, and I want to thank everybody, all of you here, for coming and voicing your concerns, your opinions. I appreciate what the church is doing. What everybody has the best intentions, even though we all have different opinions about what those best intentions will end up with. But I share a lot of our vice chair's opinions in this. I also had the same thought where really the views from Chapel Street are minimal. You can really see it most only when you're standing directly in front of the church, and that's a hard place to stand because there's another building right in front of there, and it's not a place where usually people stand and look at the church. It's angles because of the way it's set up. So I do think that is actually a very good placement for it. And part of me, and yes, the Bow Street side is very visible. You can't at all argue that it's minimally visible in any way. However, there is part of me that's like, well, it's a view from a parking lot, which isn't really a historic view, or like, one of these sort of historic aesthetic views that we're trying to protect. So maybe it would be okay from a parking lot because we have other views of solar panels in the historic district from parking lots. So it's, again, we are trying to find that balance of what is appropriate for the historic district. How can we somehow minimize any any major intrusions from what we're trying to do in the present and bringing things forward. I think the plan I think it's amazing that you're able to create so much energy from the plan that you have right here. That's a lot. And I really commend you guys for trying to do and produce all of that energy, all of that solar energy, because it seems, what did you say, 130% of your usage? That's commendable. That's really amazing. So I'm still very torn and thinking about it. I wonder if we can find a compromise, if it would be worth it to do just the Chapel Street side of the building. Contrary to what was said here, a 1953 building is historic. Is it historic in comparison to the church building? Not as historic, but it has its own history, and it is older than 50 years now, so it is contributing to the monument that it is. But it is a more modern building. It does have a low roof. It meets a lot of these criteria that we are looking for and trying to do. So I don't know if that is some sort of compromise. I don't know if that would be something worth willing to do. I'm afraid of the whole application failing altogether, but I hope that I have no idea what's going to happen, but I hope that if it does, that maybe we can, from what you've heard tonight, we can bring in some sort of compromise if it's worth it. But I don't know. This is a hard one. As you know, we have been dealing with this. We have on the way first reading that we just had on Monday night for exemptions for many of these things. It's something that we're dealing with all the time. Some applications are easier than others. And I'm blabbering on and making this meeting go longer and longer into the night, so I apologize.
We have a motion.
We have a motion on the table. Do we need a roll call, or we're just gonna, I think we need a roll call. Mr. Adams?
No.
Mr. Blaylock?
Yes.
Mr. Wyckoff?
Yes.
Dr. Brown?
No.
Mr. Ryan?
Opposed.
Vice Chair Doring?
As presented, I would have to say no.
Chair approves. So it,
4-3.
so it fails. But,
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to move a proposal to accept a proposal from the applicant for solar panels to be installed on the Chapel Street side only.
if the applicants are willing to take that into consideration?
Yeah, we'll revise for the 54 panels on the Chapel Street side.
Okay.
That's acceptable.
With
Thank you.
squirrel screening?
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have one motion.
We have a second?
We have a second? Okay. So this is just to put panels on the Chapel Street side of the building. All right. Let's roll call it again. Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Blaylock?
Aye.
Mr. Wyckoff?
Yes.
Dr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Abstained. I can't, I'm not, I'm not sure this is the right approach, so I'm abstaining.
Okay.
I'd like to see some good pictures, too, of what it really
Vice
looks
Chair Doring?
like.
Yes.
And chair votes yes. So you have approval to do half of the building. Thank you very much. We're all about compromises here. So.
As
All right.
you get the squirrel baffle stipulation.
Yes, with the stipulation.
Yeah, that's an amendment, stipulation.
Okay. Petition, all right, this is number 7. We're moving on now. Petition of Sakuntala LLC, owner for property located at 235 Marcy Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace roofing, siding, restore and reinstall windows, repair or replace trim and casings, install wood corner boards, install a gutter system, and remove the one-story rear shed, and new construction to an existing structure, add 2-story rear garage addition, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 103 as Lot 12 and lies within the general residence B and historic districts.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recuse myself. I live too close.
Okay, fine, thank you. All right, so Larry, you're up for voting on this one.
Okay.
Good evening. Carla Goodnight, representing the applicant. I'm going to break one of my rules and say, nicely done.
Thank you for...
And now I'll get on with business.
Thank you for hanging out through all of that.
This, I think a lot of you are familiar with this building on Marcy Street, certainly in need of some, desperately in need of some TLC. We are proposing, we've had a chance to go out and take an inventory of the windows, and we've looked at some of the trim underneath the asphalt siding and roofing. And, well, not the roofing, but the asphalt. It sort of is roofing as siding, I guess, is why I'm sort of digressing there. And determined the original building did have corner boards, and so we'll be replicating those. They're basically just flat. They have no, that we're not, can't find anything uniquely styled about them. Interestingly, the original windows were 6/6. So we've gone with 6/6. That surprised me. I thought they were going to be the 2/2, but they were not. So they had the little sash pins, and, you know.
Was that third floor window?
The what?
Was that third floor window?
The third floor, they're identified. There's actually a few in here, and we're either restoring them or relocating them to a side where the addition will not cover them, so, because they're all the same size, pretty much.
Great.
So just to run through the, read into the record that we will be removing the asphalt siding and roofing, restoring and reinstalling windows found to be original, repair or replace in kind the existing original trim and casings, which there are remnants enough on the house to be able to identify those pieces, install new clapboard siding and corner boards, wood, remove existing attached one-story unconditioned shed on loose brick, which is basically falling down, and then install new K-style gutters and downspouts, and they'll be white. The addition will be constructed new, a attached single-car garage, replicating the existing trim, rake, eave details, and installing the same new gutter and downspout with the fiberglass Marvin windows as needed. Clad. Here. So on 1.0, you can see the visibility. I know you're all very familiar with Marcy Street, but those are the views looking at the house and the site. On 2.0, we've memorialized some of the more significant surrounding aspects, as well as, the close-up of the rubble foundation and so forth, and then just the context photo at the lower right-hand corner. And most of this we covered in the work session, and we've made some adjustments based on that work session. So top left is the existing northwest view. We are essentially restoring the window at the top middle, and we're moving the couple of windows on the side there, and we'll be restoring the original door and side lights, which is still there. It's beautiful, very nice, and we'll be installing new siding. So similarly, the view on the right has a similar approach with the full dormer, and the windows will be the same. And turning the page, 3.1, you can see the new structure will be below the existing structure, subordinate in height. Single-car garage, step back on that corner to allow the car to actually turn the corner, get around the house, and be able to back in, because it's a little bit of a tight squeeze, but we like to think of those as sort of authentic Portsmouth kind of unique roof lines that add character. And then moving on to 4.0, we have documented all of the A windows. If you look at the upper elevations 1 and 3, you'll notice that anything in the shaded gold is going to be demolished. Most of them are existing replacement windows, kind of Brosco style. And then the B windows are the historic ones that have been identified to be restored and reinstalled. Moving down onto the new area, we've identified the other sizes of windows that will be also installed. So either in the foundation or in the new Marvin Elevate series. And they'll be primarily fitting in the existing openings.
Carla, may I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
So on the back, the very back, there are 2 windows that are historic and are coming out because the new addition is going to cover them over.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite follow where they were being reinstalled.
Yes, we did sort of lay this out several times. If you look at 4.0, the 2 on the right, on the upper right-hand side of the existing south elevation, you'll see the 2 A's.
Mm-hmm.
Below are the B's relocated into those openings. So all 4 windows on the historic house are the original B's on the south elevation, on elevation 4.
Okay. And you chose not to put them in the front facing elevation because there were only 2 available, or they were different sizes?
Right. Well, because there's only 2 available, so we thought we would pair them up with the side.
Okay. Thank you.
And 4.1, again, this is the same inventory. The two windows identified will be moving around to that side. We are slightly adjusting the location of the windows on 4.1 in the north elevation to accommodate interior staircase in that location. And then running through the materials, we will have a new asphalt roof, wood clapboard siding, aluminum gutters, Marvin Elevate windows, wood corner board, overhead garage door, and a 1 by 3.5 wood skirt board, which we also identified in picking off some of the siding. The proposed building footprint has been approved by the BOA, so that's depicted on 5.0. Gives you a reference as to, you can see that corner and how it's a little bit constricted as you come around with a vehicle. And on 6.0, we have the proposed windows, proposed exterior door that is not the front door, and then the overhead garage in insulated fiberglass facing the backyard. And then a little bit more on the front, 6.1 shows our details of the proposed siding, roofing, and again, some of the historic elements, as well as the three pieces of the front door that will be restored and installed within. And most of this trim, although I'm not sure how much of it has already been repaired and replaced, some of it, it's very crisp, as you can see on the front door, but it will look much like that upon completion. So that is my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions? Anyone? All right. No, I mean, very well presented. Thank you. That was good. I don't think I have any questions. I guess my only question is the, and this is really picky, is the garage door going to be painted or?
Painted.
Okay. Great.
Do you know if the excuse me? Do you know if the applicant wishes to use half screens on the windows or no screens or?
I think half screens
Half
would be
screens.
specified at
Okay.
this time, right?
Great. Any other questions or comments? Yes, John?
Just a question on 3.1. What is that space on the proposed southeast view? Is that space critical above the kind of shed addition that the roof joins into the roof of the gable form that's on the back of the house? Is that space up above, is that critical for something, or is that you were just trying to match the roof into the?
Are we looking at this?
I'm looking at the
southeast?
bottom left proposed southeast view.
Yes. All right, which you're looking at the.
Looking for the addition meets the main house. I think.
Yeah,
if I'm,
that's the only awkward thing that I see is
the
that-
short little clapboards.
Yeah, that's, attempting to make it look like a salt box or I don't know what.
That is actually usable space on the second floor.
Oh, it is?
That area, yeah.
So it works into your program, it's definitely
Bedroom floor
wasn't
space.
something that you just did.
No.
To have one continuous roof.
Right. Doesn't seem like it's
Thank
going to be
you.
very visible.
No, I know it's not very visible, unless.
All right. I will ask for any public comment on this. Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak? Anyone online? All right. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
Motion to approve, I think it's symmetrical, tasteful, extremely well done. Approve in full.
Findings.
Yeah, we need the findings of fact.
I
Would you
will-
like to second?
I will second the motion.
You have to come up with findings.
Let me put my glasses back on. All right. Well, it does preserve the integrity of the district. It blends in with the houses immediately next to it. Driving that street every day or two, I truly admire what she's come up with. And I think it enhances the architectural district as a whole, particularly the south end. And I also think it serves as a shining example of what can be done with a house when somebody sets their mind to it. So.
Any other? No, I agree. This is one of the houses on Marcy Street that I think everybody has noticed for a long time and is wondering when it's going to get fixed up. And so thank you for taking so much care and doing investigations and reusing windows. That all really adds to preservation of this house. So, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Last one of the evening. Petition of Sally N. Stebbins, Revocable Trust of 2015, owner for property located at 117 Bow Street, Unit 202, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace existing slate roof with faux slate roof, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 106 as Lot 57B and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. Who's here to present?
Good evening, Carla Goodnight from CJ Architects. This is basically a roof replacement and repair of the existing slate roof. The building was built in 1985. So the contractor and the property manager have informed me that the slate is falling off because, and Dave would appreciate this, that they didn't use stainless fasteners. So it's literally rusting and sliding off. So they would like to utilize the faux slate, and let me just grab the brand to replace the roofing material on this building. We do have a sample.
Great.
So
Let's see it.
take a look at the sample.
Could you repeat what's failing?
The attachments,
The attachments?
right, they were
Because
not,
these slates supposed to be 100 years or something, right?
Right.
the
The
fasteners were
slates
not.
themselves are, but if you use rusty fasteners, then it
Yes, I guess.
is no good.
Somebody got cheap.
Mr. Adams, did you want to rejoin this?
I'm sorry, I overstayed my leave outside.
That's okay. You can try.
I just looked up and thought, I've blown this
No.
completely.
There's nobody.
Oh, God.
But you were still talking. And there was no one there.
This is roof replacement.
CoStar, and these are the colors available. Are we proposing to just stick with the black?
Yeah.
Just the
Those-
black?
no.
No? Oh, all four.
Those are the ones that match existing.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's typical colors.
Okay.
Okay.
We may want to just go with the black and gray. Because I think in the existing in the 80s may have been a little bit more colorful, but I think if you're amenable, we can possibly just go
Well, I mean,
more neutral, but that's your call.
stick with the 80s will be historic someday. Yes, John?
Is this just the front?
Yes. Yes, it's more of a shallow shed in the back, and I think there's asphalt roof shingles there now. They're going to replace the asphalt roof shingles, so I think it might be a 4-pitch, I hope, up there. It's pretty high, so I haven't been up there.
I have a question, and
Yes.
that is, you're just doing the middle unit? You're not doing both
Correct.
the slate ones?
Just the middle.
Is that owned by somebody else?
Yes.
Okay. Because my concern is that we're going to get a really colorful set here where you have one that has the beautiful green copper, one that has very colorful, clean replacement slates, faux slates, and then one that has the old slates, and so it's just
Right, and I do think that, Jeff Saban can speak to this because I'm not aware of the other property owner, but they will be having some issues in the very near future.
I can imagine that their slate roof probably isn't better because it's got the same problems.
Correct. My prediction, if I'm predicting the future, would be they would come back for an admin with the exact same materials. When and if they must go down that road.
Okay. Any other questions?
Could I ask another
Yes,
question?
of course.
Please. So these are ease in application, so I assume that you just shoot right through these. Is that correct, or are there drilled holes that you have to put the fasteners in?
I have not looked into the installation, but
There he is.
I could speak to that if you like.
Hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Felipe. So Sally contacted me at the beginning of this year. She stated that there was multiple leakings at her property. After inspection, I realized that a lot of her slates were falling, and she also told me that one of her daily exercises is avoid being hit by a slate and pick up them from the ground. Her property and her neighbor's property, they are like missing few pieces, a lot of pieces. Seems to me that the past years, a lot of replacements were done, like multiple different colors. So she asked me to try to match existing colors.
Okay.
Get as close as possible. So that's what we got. It's like
for it.
colors are
understand.
all over the place.
Yep.
It changed along the years. And the installation of this type of roof, it's similar to existing natural slates. We're just gonna improve using stainless steel nails, and
And you just nail right through those?
correct, goes right through.
So the old slates were nailed on with galvanized nails?
Not galvanized. I believe there was regular nails.
Oh, my goodness.
Based on that.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Your fault.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, these are actually broken because of painters standing on them inappropriately, and that's why there were repairs on it also. My inspection, most of the slates that I saw were broken rather than falling whole. The roofs on these three units have always been differentiated or been slightly differentiated, and that was part of the design back when this was constructed to not make it look like some sort of row immaculate thing. Question I have is while you're up there, wouldn't this be a great time to kind of replace some of the broken and missing balusters?
Yeah.
You think that would play in? I know it would if it were mine.
We haven't,
Well,
that would be probably repair, I think,
Yes,
is
that
why
would be a
they're
replacement.
thinking.
Sure.
I think they're thinking repair for that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't say that I remember specifically the color, but I don't believe the roofs were variegated when they were put on. I think that's happened over time. Some parts of the slate fade into, on a whitish color, and others, the iron in them rusts out. I don't remember them as being variegated roofs when they were installed. I don't think we're losing any ground here.
Okay.
Well, I just add this, I also think from the pattern, it looks like what Felipe had mentioned about non-galvanized nails. So you're probably also, I agree with you, David, I think it's also probably the corrosion from a non-galvanized nails.
It's possible.
So I think, sounds like a safety issue, and I think you made good choices.
Good.
I think we can specify federal gray and midnight gray, mix 50/50.
As long as they're not applied in a light dark. Any other comments or questions on this? It seems like, would we want the motion to have the the caveat or the extension that if and when the neighboring unit needs to replace those, they can just use this pre-approved set so that they don't even have to come back for us, to us? Okay, great. Well, I will ask anyone in the public to speak to, for, or against this. Anybody online? All right, great.
Against it.
Close the public hearing and wait for a motion on this.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve this application and provide a blanket to the next door property for this variegated slate, not in a strict mathematical pattern. I've been also, I assume, replacing, I don't know if it came up, replacing the snow guard pieces also.
Yep.
And do this because of preservation of property values.
I will second that, but I'm going to ask for a clarification. Are we making any specifications with regard to the colors? Just the two gray, not the four colors, just the two gray?
Yes.
Okay.
You can-
And
yeah.
the new, and in the
Yep,
blanket,
Federal and Midnight.
Oh, you got it already.
Let's write that back.
This is what he does.
and in this blanket approval, if the people next door want to use one but not both of the colors, is that okay?
I believe that one to Isaac.
So, okay.
Take these things.
I think we can just say the exact same approval.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you. All right.
All right.
I have just a couple quick items to talk about. One, just making sure you guys are all aware of the vote that was taken on Monday night. You guys all read it, everything, but there is an amendment to our recommended amendments, which basically put everything that we had come together for admin approval into the exemption list. And so that is what was voted forward. So we're going to move into accepting that. There's a second reading next month.
June 17th.
Oh, it's June 17th. Okay.
Or June, sorry, yeah. It was the third, 2 weeks, 17th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so at the next meeting, there'll be a second reading. There is time there if we need to, adjust any language or if anybody has any issues with the way it is written up or presented, or if there are any little adjustments, please let us know. But I think that it is a compromise between both needs, and basically what it'll do is just give Isaac some work to go through all of those and make sure that they meet all the criteria for an exemption. And if it doesn't, then it comes to a full public hearing. So, and on the topic of admin approvals, I sent out the email talking about our admin approval process. There is some language in that, in the new ordinance amendment that's being voted through that does clarify a little bit of our admin approvals, but I still think it would be worth it to have a conversation to really just clarify for us and for simplicity and for efficiency to say, okay, here are the things that we look for that fall under admin approval, just so that when Isaac gets these applications, he's not guessing like, is this a small enough application? Should it be admin approval? Should it not? We need to be very clear on what our expectations are and what we would like to see as admin approval, and anything else comes into public hearing, because that's really the goal of it, is to make a quick, just like tonight, a fairly quick consent agenda. No real issues or major, questions. So,
the issue that I run into with having a consent agenda and not working it is that people are forced to vote no on the whole consent agenda if they have just one application that they have an issue with. And I think it would be valuable to have a process whereby people feel comfortable saying, I'd like to remove this from the consent agenda. in board meetings that I go to in other lives, the consent agenda is put forward in the agenda, and if you have an issue, you say right in front that you want something pulled out. And that way, people have the opportunity to vote yes on the 5 things they agree with, but can vote no on the one thing that they don't. Right now, it's an all or nothing thing, and I don't think that that's really fair to people.
Well, we have done it that way in the past.
We've always pulled things.
We can pull things out, but this is the problem, we don't have it set in our rules and procedures that this is what can happen. And so sometimes it goes
We are
one way.
having a conversation about administrative approvals.
Right.
So I think it's a great idea that we should sit down and all have this thing work out.
Yeah. Yes, Rich.
And I just want to encourage to have those discussions in public and not through email. I just know some opinions or stuff was shared, and we can be very careful, especially when there's a quorum.
Right. Well, for administrative procedural things, we're not subject to all of the public law things.
Yeah.
But we will. This is what I'm asking about. So right now, this is what I'm asking about. My question is, do we want to have this conversation at the end of next meeting, which seems like we've had some more postponements, so it might not be a very long agenda? Or do we want to come back for a 3rd meeting at the end of the month? And it would, I can imagine that our discussion on this would last maybe an hour.
I would rather do a 3rd meeting myself, but I'm happy to go either way.
I would like a 3rd because I can't make the 2nd.
I would like to extend, I'd hate to lose another summer evening night.
I know.
And just have whatever we decide be dismissed by the powers that be. So let's just have a short discussion. Unfortunately, you can't make it, but just have it extend to the 2nd meeting.
You can, if you have any thoughts on this, you can certainly send it to me and Isaac and make sure that it gets distributed.
Over here?
Yes, John.
I don't think that there's enough solid discussion here to have a whole meeting out of.
Mm-hmm. It might not be. This is why it might
And
be.
I certainly don't agree that we should have this together with the planning board.
I don't think that's going to be necessary.
No, I don't think it is either.
think-
So I would prefer myself to have it at the end of the meeting
Next week?
next week.
Okay, great. I think that Rick Chelman and the planning board are willing to help us with any of the kind of dry language as it has to be put into our rules and procedures. But I think that we need to decide first what our expectations and wants are. So, great. So let's just add that as a discussion point at the end of the agenda next week. Yep. Great, thank you. Anything
They have
else?
enough problems.
I think the way the St. John's thing went tonight was really insightful, because to see what they were proposing being amended partway through and then them getting a pass. Because, I wasn't a non-voting person, but the way it was presented,
David, you broke the law.
I couldn't have supported it. But yet, once they amended it, it's like, okay, I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? So I think that's, I think you used the word compromise about 10 minutes ago, and that's kind of what it's all about, Nothing's necessarily cast in stone.
Yeah.
But, our job is not necessarily always to say yes or no, but our job is to help the people of Portsmouth do something that in the long run is maybe something they want, but also something that increases the value of their property and Portsmouth as a whole. And I think that's what happened tonight, because it got amended and it got worked through. And
Thank God we've got him.
I think there's a way to do that moving forward.
Absolutely.
My concern is that it wasn't a complete application because the renderings were not appropriate.
Right.
I appreciate that, too. Thank you.
Yeah, we get all the voltage and
All right.
just like the pictures.
There is one thing,
all
though,
the time, and
that
my
I'm not
constituent
sure
wants-
is part of the
Street
red,
in a couple
of
days.
the stuff that we submitted to the planning board, and it was the color of, that the color be all black. Because I have noticed some solar panels which have the frame around them being a shiny aluminum, and that definitely puts them in a different world.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll double check that.
So, yeah, please double check that, because I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Motion to amend?
Okay, great. All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
I mean, a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Aye.